And the energy of worry is like a dark, damp, musty smelling, gray, ratty old army blanket that's wrapped around whatever you're worried about. So if you're worried about money, you're literally wrapping the energy of that around money. If you're worried about your kids, you're wrapping that energy around your children.
Welcome to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, empowering you with the simple, consistent actions needed to master yourself and create a life of purpose and fulfillment. I'm your host, Agi Keramidas, and my mission is simple: to inspire you to take action towards improving your life. In this podcast, I invite myself inside the minds of remarkable people and I distill their wisdom for you. So, if you're ready to find practical insights that you can implement right now, make sure you follow the podcast and get the episodes as soon as they are released. Today, I am delighted to speak with Anjel B Hartwell. Angel, you are known as the Wealthy Life Mentor, and you are an internationally best-selling author who's on a mission to help individuals merge their spirituality with prosperity. With over 40 years of entrepreneurial experience, you bring a wealth of knowledge and spiritual wisdom to help high-achieving executives and purpose-driven business owners. You are the host of the award-winning Wickedly Smart Women podcast, and you are passionate about supporting heart-centered individuals in welcoming wealth while navigating the internal shifts required to thrive on their mission. Welcome, Angel, to the show. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Oh, thank you so much, Agi. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's a truly fascinating topic that we're going to discuss today, Angel, and I believe also very useful as well. It's not, theoretically fascinating. It's practically usefully fascinating. So we will explore combining spirituality with prosperity and also welcoming wealth, as you say. Before we go there, can you share more about that spiritual awakening in your story that catalyzed your departure from real estate and your new path or your true path?
Sure, beautiful. Well, I spent 20 years in the real estate industry. At the end of that career, I was the national chairperson for my trade association, and our association represented 1 in 8 homeowners in the country. I was also building with 2 partners a multi-use, multi-million-dollar project, 51 single-family houses, 56 apartments, and an office building. And there was a personal crisis in my family with my child, and all of this congealed at the same time. I was like working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, selling out the project. I was serving as a volunteer at the national level of my trade association. I had a little one at home, and there was a lot of, crises, kind of energy happening all at once. And I ended up just hitting the wall. Like I really hit the wall. It was the end of the project. It was the end of my my serving on the board of this organization as the national chair. And I hit this wall. Literally, I actually hit a mountain with my knee. I fell skiing. I fell down skiing in the spring of 2020. I fell down skiing. Not 2020, 2000. Sorry, 2000. I'm a little lost on the timing here. So it was the spring of 2000 and I fell down skiing. 2001. And that injury inspired me when I got done with physical therapy. I got inspired to go start a yoga class. And in the yoga class, the yoga teacher, like she embodied peace. I was like, like just like I was a walking electric shock, right? And she embodied peace. And I saw this like embodiment of peace. And I said, I don't care if I have to paint my hair purple or turn myself upside down or, wear raggy looking clothes. I don't care what I got to do. I want what she has, I don't care. And so I started yoga, and about 4 months into yoga, in August of 2001, it would have been, I was out in the park with her, and she was doing a park Sunday in the park kind of yoga thing. And I had this awakening. I was under a tree. I was in final shavasana, and my third eye burst open, and I could see like this beautiful golden white staircase and angelic beings and golden orbs going up and down the staircase. Now, I'm a real estate developer, so this is a little like, what's happening? What's happening? And I sat up from that experience and opened my physical eyes, Augie, and everyone in the park was a golden white orb of light. And this persisted for about, several hours. Even as I was driving back home from the park, I could see golden white orbs of light in the cars. And I started to question my sanity and was like, am I going to be seeing? Like my physical eyes were seeing these golden white orbs of light. And thankfully, I had the yoga community at that point to be able to make meaning of it and make sense of it. Because if I hadn't, I probably would have taken myself to the psychiatrist. So that's kind of the story of the spiritual awakening. And since then, I've experienced, it's been 22 years now. I've experienced multiple additional awakenings and initiations and spiritual rites of passage, shall we say. So, But that's the beginning.
That's amazing. There is a quick question that came to my mind just now. Why do you think you keep on having more and additional spiritual awakenings?
Well, right. That's a great question, Augie. And the reason why is because when I had my first spiritual awakening, I invested in exploring and discovering what was happening with me. And I continued year after year to invest and devote myself to exploring. And one of the things that happened for me initially was, I literally was a real estate developer. I was busy putting numbers into boxes and foundations into the ground and, very practical, making sure that the mortgage payments were being made to the lenders, super, super practical. And after the spiritual awakening, I left real estate. I spent 2 years just deconditioning from a lifetime of what I thought I was and who I thought I was supposed to be. And in that deconditioning process, all of these latent, unknown to me, dormant aspects of myself began to emerge. So my artist emerged, my healer emerged, my performer emerged. At one point, I did a crystal singing bowl healing CD that was an award-winning CD. My speaker emerged. My author emerged. Like all of these previously unknown parts of myself. But I had to say yes and make the space and continue to make the investment in myself and in this soul purpose path that I could see that I was on, because the alternative was, it was not something I could go back to. It just simply wasn't. I couldn't go back to living like a walking electric shock. Right?
Yeah. If you're enjoying this episode, can you find one person that you think would add value to and share it with them? I would really appreciate you, and it really helps grow the show and also helps you add value to people you care about. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the episode. There were many things, but I will repeat because I thought it was very important what you said, that you invested and devoted yourself to exploring what was happening in that direction. So thank you for answering my my question. And Angel, let me switch a little bit direction and actually discuss about wealth, which and specifically connected with spirituality, but we'll go to that in a moment. In your work, you talk about the 5 ways we often ward off wealth. So, can you elaborate on this for me so we can have a preface for going deeper into some of those things?
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it is as a result of my direct experiences with these things that I am now able to articulate them. And they were intersected very much so with my spiritual awakening, as well as my setting up of my own business that allows me to now serve people all over the world. So I think what I'd like to do is first give us a definition of wealth that we can work with. Because I believe that wealth is the sum total of all of the resources that we have available to us, and it's not just money. Okay. So I use the word thief, THIEF, as a mnemonic device to talk about these 5 areas, these 5 resources that we have available to us, because we are often stealing from one or more of these resources. And that's one of the ways that we stay disconnected from the financial aspect of wealth, but also from living a wealthy life. So the 5 are time, health, our imagination, which is a marriage of our intellect and our intuition. Our imagination is a marriage of both our intellect and our intuition. As a side note, when I started to have this spiritual awakening and was popping open, I walked away from intellect for a while to be able to grow and expand and accept my intuition. But I had to marry them again. I had to come back around and bring my intellect back on board again in a healthy way with intuition. So imagination. And then E is the ecosystem of exchange. And it's in the ecosystem of exchange where the money lives. But in that ecosystem of exchange, even there, so you could say it's 20% of this equation here, but even there in the ecosystem of exchange, it's not always a financial exchange. Like right now, you and I are having an exchange of our intellect and our intuition, and we're not necessarily exchanging money. So the ecosystem of exchange includes all of our relations. It includes all of our relations, right? It includes the air we breathe. It includes the food we eat. It includes the trees outside our window. The ecosystem of exchange also includes the people in our lives that we make relationship with. And somewhere in that mix, there's money exchange. So the money piece is actually really small in the overall equation here. And then fun with our family, friends, and fellows on the path. Because if we're not having fun, why are we doing it? Right? So those are the 5 resources that I feel make up my definition of wealth, and how I want to enjoy a wealthy life is by having all of these in not perfect balance, but balancing with each other in a beautiful way, rather than stealing from one to elevate another. And a lot of times, especially in the entrepreneurial space, especially in the spiritual healing space, I see people rob from their health in service to sometimes the spiritual mission, and sometimes in service to the money. And it's all like dysfunctional because they aren't actually engaging their intellect to structure things in a way that will be balancing for all of these things. So that's the definition of wealth. And then the five ways that I've discovered that we ward off wealth. Well, the first one is worry. And one of the things that happened when I had my spiritual awakening was my third eye popped open. I told you about that. And I started to be able to see. And I then invested in being able to bring all of my multidimensional senses online, not just the seeing, but also the clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. There's lots of clairs. And so when I'm working with clients, I can see or I can perceive what this energy of worry is like. And the energy of worry, in my perception, is like a dark, damp, musty smelling, gray, ratty old army blanket that's wrapped around whatever you're worried about. So if you're worried about money, you're literally wrapping the energy of that around money. If you're worried about your kids, you're wrapping that energy around your children, right? So as a conscious traveler on the planet, and one of the things I know for sure, Aggie, is there's a whole lot I don't know. So let me be clear about that. But what I do know is I want to be intentional about how I'm using my thoughts, how I'm using my energy. So worry is one of them. Withdrawing is the next one. We'll talk more about these. Let me give you all five. Waffling is the third one. Whining is the fourth one. And waiting on is the fifth one. So if there's any of those that you want to go deeper into, let me just say them again. Worry, withdraw, waffle, whine, wait on.
Whining is the one that jumps out to me when I'm looking at the five. The worry is also very. I liked the metaphor of the stinky blanket, the moldy blanket. So whining.
Yeah, let's talk about whining. So whining, and let me speak about it in the entrepreneurial space, because I serve people all over the world. I've served people for 15 years now, all over the world in the entrepreneurial space. And my clients have generated in excess of $100 million in revenues over these years. And one thing that I teach my clients and I work on with them, and I notice in others, is this whining thing. And one way that I have seen it is, let's say you're at an event. I mean, it's been a while since we've been getting events back off the ground, but let's just use your imagination. Pretend you're at an event. You've gone through the day. There's, really smart people, really spiritual people on the stage. They're making offers to you. You're getting inspired. At the end of the day, everybody gathers at the little patio bar. People start drinking the wine. They start drinking the wine. And now you've got this whole group of people drinking the wine. I don't drink, by the way. I haven't in 20 plus years. You've got all these people drinking the wine, and somebody starts whining. They start complaining, bitching, moaning about, I don't have enough clients, and I've tried all the things, and I don't know what else to do. And they're just whining and whining. And the other members of the group start colluding. So generally, whining happens over wine. Whining doesn't happen when you're by yourself. Whining happens when you have an audience. Okay. And then what happens when you start whining with the audience is their energy starts to feed in to your whining and make it even more real. And the wine lowers your consciousness level. So now you have a lower consciousness level. You're speaking into the world the complaints. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for you when you have a challenge in your business to go. That's why you hire somebody. That's why you hire a consultant. That's why you hire a mentor. That's why you hire a coach, so that you can actually we don't want to spiritually bypass our challenges. We don't want to be struggling in the dark, not asking for help, but we definitely don't want to be whining in collusion in a situation where everybody's consciousness is getting lowered as well. So that's the whining one. And one of the ways that we can stop whining, if you are interested in how to stop these things.
Absolutely.
One of the ways that we stop whining, well, the way that we stop whining is we start weeding. And what I mean by weeding is we weed out those people that are whiners out of our own life. You know, if you know somebody that whenever you go and you're sitting down with them, you're having wine there, oh my God, everything is so horrible in my life. And you know their life is freaking fabulous. You know what I mean? But they just need a place to vent. Those are the people you don't want in your life unless they're paying you. You know, if they're paying you, then you're in a sacred space and it's appropriate for that. Yeah. So just start weeding. And part of it is weeding your own thought forms too. Part of it is weeding out the desire to fit in, right? Where everybody's sitting down having the wine. Oh, yep, let's fit in. Let's have some wine with them too, you know, or that person's complaining. So, maybe I get to complain too. And it very often happens at events. I see it a lot, but you know, it happens in other places. For women, it's often whining over wine. For men, it's belly aching over beer.
It's, I hadn't thought of the word, how they sound like wine and wine. It's difficult to ignore. I mean, even for that reason, because these kinds of situations where two seemingly different words are or sound exactly the same way, I have found in the past, and anyway, I'm digressing now with that, but it's something interesting, whining and whining. So I'm going to bring myself back to our conversation then,
Great.
Angel. There is something that I believe it's very important to discuss, and because we alluded to it earlier on, and that was wealth. And now that you have defined it, I get it, and of course it is all the resources, but let's, for the remaining of this conversation, focus more on the financial wealth rather than the other elements of it. So it's not uncommon, as you know, I'm sure, for people that are more, called on a mission or in spiritual path, or in this trajectory in their life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon for them to struggle with, financially, or even, the entrepreneurial role that they have to assume as going into that path. So can you share your insights, because you work with these people, and, why is that the case often with spirituality and financial wealth, or like they seem to be in the opposite ends of a scale? And what's one thing that the listener can do straight away to start putting things right?
Right. Excellent question. Well, I do want to go back to the fifth way that we ward off wealth, which is waiting on. Mm-hmm. And and this happened to me. So I'm going to out myself. It happened to me. 2 years after having my spiritual awakening, now I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I haven't figured out the math part of it. And my heart wants to give. Okay. My heart wants to give. And often we end up waiting on, like, in a servile way, rather than being in service. And again, this happens in entrepreneurial groups a lot. And I'll out myself. I did it myself, where you are part of maybe a mastermind group or a coaching program or something, and people start struggling. And the leader is just like, okay, this is what we're doing. Here's our curriculum. here's the time you can ask questions. And now you're all in this pool of people who are all like trying to figure things out. And then the spiritual people generally try and help everybody else at their own expense.
Yes.
They're waiting on everyone else, and they're not taking care of their own foundation. They're not making sure that they are being in service, but instead they're being servile, right? So, and it's kind of like the Cinderella thing, right? So here's Cinderella, and she's waiting on her ugly stepsisters, right? Or she's waiting on the handsome prince to come and rescue her. And it's a position where you are doomed to eventually become a broke healer. And therefore, you are actually doing no service for anyone because you're actually broke. Okay. So, when I'm working with my clients, one of the things that I offer, I have a small group program called the Big Revenue Breakthrough. And in the Big Revenue Breakthrough, one of the things I offer my clients is the practicality of doing the math, right? Doing the math. So I, with my two partners, did not build 51 single family houses, 56 apartments, and an office building without doing the math, right? So if you want to build something of lasting value, you've got to do the math. And everybody's math is going to be different. You know, the woman who's taking care of 4 kids and her elderly mother and is by herself has different math than the man who just retired from the C-suite. They have different math. They both might have big, huge open hearts, and they have different math. They have different time math, and they have different money math. So one of the main things I like to do at the outset of that big revenue breakthrough is get everybody clear on their own math. And then we have to do the mindset work. And the mindset work is, again, part of this waiting on last millennium framework of the martyr, right? Give until you're dead. The give until you're dead martyrdom mindset is not something that's actually what we want to implant on the planet from a consciousness level at this point. What we want right now is those who have big hearts and are able to give, to be giving from their overflow, to be giving through myself, not of myself. Okay, so we have to change the mindset. And then the third thing that we do in this 30-day intensive is we work on the metaphysics. And the metaphysics is all about the energetics. You know, often there are familial, ancestral things that we look at. Often there are, potentially childhood trauma that we look at. Often there's just pure energetic intrusions or blocks in various parts of the energy field that need to be either extracted or sometimes activated. So an activation can come in at the very end. That's what I do as an activation. We call it the Golden Flow Wealth Activation at the very end of that program, because once you clear stuff out, if you don't fill it up with the correct frequency, then you're tempted to or will likely revert into the old frequency, the old patterns, the old dynamics. So, yeah, got to stop waiting on and start walking in partnership and remembering. Here's another piece I just want to say really quick, Augie, is when you invest in something, like we started this conversation with me investing in my spiritual path, what you invest in is going to give you returns. Okay? And so when you are in a business where you are an entrepreneur and you have your math set, the next kind of leg up yoga move there is you have to have these selling conversations. And you have to be able to be in a frame and a position internally that you making the offer, just you making the offer, is an opportunity for this other person, is a gift to this other person. The offer itself is enough, because when you make the offer to another person to work with you, they then have the opportunity to say to themselves, oh, I am going to invest in this for me. My clients aren't investing in me. They're not investing in my work. They're not investing in my business. They're investing in themselves. And when you choose to invest in yourself, miracles happen. Miracles that you are not expecting. I can't tell you how many miracles have happened for me from investing in myself that had nothing to do with the program or the service that I was buying. Nothing. But if I had not made that investment, those miracles wouldn't have happened. So hopefully that answers the question on the financial side of things, Aki.
You gave me and you gave us lots of things in that answer, Angel. So thank you. There was something you said. I made a note of it rather than being a martyr. Instead, you said like a big heart giving from what's overflowing, and you said give through themselves, not give from themselves, which is it's a huge. It might only be a one word, but it's a huge paradigm shift in the mindset about. So thank you very much, and. Also about that very last comment about the selling conversations and how to perceive an offer, as you said, it is enough, and that's also very beautiful and empowering, and also calming. I was trying to find the word as on its own. So thank you for this insightful answers and wisdom you shared with us today, Angel. I do have a couple of last quick fire questions I always ask my guests. Before we go there, can you share with the listener what to do to stay in contact with you? Where to go next from this podcast?
Sure. Well, so if you would like to know what your wealthy life readiness is, how ready you are to start creating a wealthy life, you can do our quiz, and you can go to quiz.wealthylifementor.com, quiz.wealthylifementor.com. And when you take the quiz, it's going to give you a little score and tell you where you're at in terms of your journey to opening up to creating and enjoying a more wealthy life by design, right? Because it's by design. We have to design these things. It doesn't happen by default. It has to happen by design. And so you can go there, and that will also send you some additional connection emails after you take the quiz. And so, yeah, I would love to see who's got their wealthy life readiness score. And I do love to have people stay in touch, especially if you'd like some support with consulting. And, those invitations will be in the follow-up for that quiz.
Thank you. So, Angel, let me ask you a couple of quick fire questions as well. And the first one I always ask is, what does personal development mean to you?
It means becoming more of what I came onto this planet to be, and being willing to devote myself and invest in myself in that process. Yeah. No matter what, even if it seems illogical. Especially if it's an intuitive hit to invest in something. It's like, yeah, definitely you want to do that. So even if it seems illogical, that I continue to invest and devote myself to my development.
Thank you. And let's say hypothetically that you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self. What's one piece of advice you would give her?
Shed that dusty, musty, rusty, smelly, gray, stinky old army blanket that your mother put around you because it's not yours. Her worry is not yours. And I carried that blanket for a lot longer than was necessary. Yeah.
Angel, thank you very much for this enlightening conversation. It was for me indeed. I want to wish you all the very best with your mission and what your contribution with what you're doing. I would like to conclude today with some, your parting words, but what I'm looking for is some kind of parting wisdom emerging, from the conversation. What's something that the listener can implement as a result of, listening to this, maybe to, begin the journey towards combining spirituality with financial wealth a little bit better? What's one implementable thing to do?
Right. So I think the implementable thing that I would invite people to do is to be clear in your intention. Be clear with your intention, because intention guides everything. And one of my favorite things to say is clarity is divinity. So be clear in your intention. If you really have an intention to serve your spiritual gifts into the world, respect them enough to set up a structure that will allow you to thrive and keep delivering those gifts while maintaining your wellness. Respect the gift. Don't squander it. Be clear with your intentions. Clarity is divinity.
And before I leave you for today, if you've enjoyed this episode, can you find one person that you think it would add value to and share it with them? I would really appreciate you. Not only does it help grow the show, it also helps you add value to people that you care about. Thank you so much. Until next time, stand out, don't fit in.